In this lesson, learning our Revit 2014, we're going to talk about room calculation points. This is not anything new in itself. You've always been able to control the room calculation point within MEP stuff, mainly lights, air terminals, mechanical equipment, electrical equipment, to mention a few. There might be a couple more. And the room calculation point helps when you insert a family into a project and it is room aware. Now, all of these categories here know what room they're in. If you place a piece of furniture or casework or specialty equipment, generic models, okay, doors and windows are a little different because they have a from room and a to room availability. And these guys as well, lights, air terminal. So all of these categories you can currently schedule before Revit 2014 and include the room information. Okay, that's not new. You've been able to do that. But now what happens is sometimes it just doesn't report the right room, and you want to add a little bit more control as to where the base point of the room is, like a little sensor. So they've had this little room calculation point, I'm calling it a sensor, in these MEP objects. So really nothing new there. But now the new thing in 2014 is that you can control this room calculation point within the family within these objects. So they've kind of moved on over to the architectural side, and doors and windows have a from room to room calculation point. So these families have a single node and the door and windows have two. So we're going to just kind of demonstrate that. The whole concept itself might be new, so we can give it a try. So I just have a little bit of equipment placed in this project, just random equipment that I threw in there, some dryers and sinks and fan hoods and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to say, for instance, pick on this dryer. Now, for whatever reason, it's going to report that it's in 229, but under some circumstances, depending on where the base point is and if there's a wall here or room separator, you don't always get the right room in your schedule. Okay, so what we can do now, this is the kind of the new part, is we can go in and say edit family. And then when you're inside of here, all you have to do is say room calculation point. Turn that on. Click. And all of a sudden, you're going to get this little node guy that's sitting back here at this kind of base point thing. So you can adjust this from either a plan view or a 3D view. And I would like to go to an elevation. So I'm going to go to my right side, open it up. Okay, and there's that room calculation point. I can take that and drag it out to here, and I can move it up as well. Okay, now if I go to a plan view, back to here, okay, I've moved it over. Now I can kind of pull it here. I can pull it in this direction. Okay, so you can kind of wiggle that out, and then you can pull it down. Now, right now it's starting because these two reference planes are representing the origin. If you click on here, it says defines origin. If you click on here, it says defines origin. That's why it starts from there. That's the anchor. So I can take this, probably, pull it out this way to the front of the dryer. So that's going to be the new little sensor. Wherever this sits in the room is going to be the that base point or the calculation point. And that again is turned on by doing this. Turn it off. Turn it back on, and look what it does. It reverts back to the original place. Pull it over here. Have a look from maybe my left-hand side this time. Yeah, that looks pretty good out there in space. Okay, and then I want to save this. And then I load it back into my project. Revit architecture, good. And I'll overwrite the existing. Now what happens is if I pick on here, you're going to see that little control point. Okay, so that has always been available in MEP. So if I just do an Alt tab here over to my MEP project, let's close this guy down. No, I didn't want to close everything. I just want to close this one file. I should know better than that. Hit the close button over there. And door schedule, I don't want to see that. Go back to here. I'm trying to get to my mechanical file here. There we go. So inside of here, we've had this availability here, but it's actually good and worth demonstrating. Let's say this light isn't reporting the right room it's in. Maybe it's in a, I don't know, a hollow ceiling, or it's, for whatever reason, it's reporting the wrong kind of room or space. So what you can do is pick on it and say Edit Family. And then within that light family, even from a 3D view, we can turn on that same room calculation point, and there we'll have that point. So we can take that, and we can kind of pull that down to wherever I want. Oh, that wasn't very good. Let's do an undo on that. Probably better to do these from elevational views. Now it looks like it is going to be there. Yeah, so I'm going to pick on here. Probably pull that down. Okay, maybe move it over here a little bit. Now notice where it's anchored. Okay, clicking on there. If we go back to our floor plan view and we have a look at that, the reason why it's starting from there, oops, I'm going to turn off my select surfaces, is because that is what defines the origin, I believe. If I pick on here and I say you are the origin, does it move itself over? And I say this is origin, which it probably already is. Doesn't seem to be changing it after the fact. Seems to like that point over there. Wonder if it's lined and a lock to that. Trying to move that base point. I wonder if that is the center left right, and that is the center front back. So that kind of makes sense. That's my two main ones, but they're not defined as origins. So it might be hard coded to always be at those two default center left right and center front back reference planes. That's the base of it. So then you can kind of pull it around from there. Maybe go back, have a last look at the front, pull it underneath. Okay, and then say save, and we'll give it a different name. Put it in there and load it into the project. And we'll place one here because it's a different type, different family, and now you're going to see it's got that calculation point dangling down there. Okay, maybe we will take that and say temporarily isolate that object. With my temporary isolate the element. There it is in the project. And there's our room calculation point. So let's close this guy down. So that's been available with lights and air terminals and mechanical equipment and electrical equipment for some time. And now it is available with, close that off. Now it's available with some architectural objects. So room calculation point, okay, it helps when you want to report the room information within the schedule, okay, like a door schedule, for instance. If you have a door schedule that you've made, you can go into that door schedule into fields, and you can schedule door information, but you can also click down here and say door from room, add that in, and say to room, okay, to room number, what I want, not base, okay, to room name and number. So to room, from room information, and hit OK, and then we'll get that over here. from this room to that room. Okay, from room number to room name. Not necessarily what I wanted. From room number to room number. Let's take this out. Back to here. I need a from room. And we'll move that one up. Good. Finally got my ducks in a row. From room to room. Okay, so that has always kind of been available, but it can cause problems. So that's when we go in. Now we've done the normal connector, okay, for furniture, casework, specialty equipment, air terminals, but doors and windows are a little bit different. Okay, we're just going to pick on here and say edit family. And go to a plan view to start with, I suggest. And then we do the same thing, turn on the room calculation point. You can see the arrow is going this way. Okay, this is the from room. And this is the to room. And we can go to an elevation on the side, right hand side. Pull this guy up. Okay, go to a 3D view even. Okay, and there's our room calculation points. Move these guys around. So they've always had the from room to room option, but it didn't always kind of work the way. And so this is just giving you a little extra control. So we can go save this and put that in front of it. And it won't let me save it there as usual. Happens every time. And put a DG in front of that. And that's it. Load it into the project. Place one over here because it's a different one. You can see this one doesn't have that control point turned on. And this one does. So as you flip it, okay, you're going to see the from room to room arrows move around a little bit. So something new, something old in there, but a little bit of information on objects and categories that are room aware to begin with, as well as the new control calculation points and some existing control calculation points. Remember, the door and window has that extra little to room, from room. The rest of them just have the single node. The other thing is, I just have in the bottom, calculation point is not adjustable within the project. So that first thing I did was I thought I could click on here and then grab this little grip and move it, but you can't. Which I know Architectural Desktop or a Architectural AutoCAD has been able to do this forever, so it's kind of a shame that once you do get this little tail guy built in, you would think you could pick on here and then pick on this grip and move it around depending on your condition, but in fact you can't, and I seem to think that Autodesk just kind of left that part out of it. So one little caveat at the end, I hate to end on a sour note, but yeah, we wish we could move it around a little bit more. So there's some information on reporting the room information on certain categories in our REVIT.